Before spreadsheets and site plans, this neighborhood had a heartbeat. For generations, families built homes, businesses, and community, and watched it disappear under the name of progress. Since then, we've weathered canceled deals, competing proposals, unsolicited bids, unsolicited proposals, and a will they, won't they stadium saga drama that's ready for prime time. And we can't forget the hurricane seasons that continue to come in hotter and harder. If we can design for a ballpark, we can design for our people. Corner by corner, starting with what locals need to survive in that hot Florida summer, August heat at noon, and in September during hurricanes. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Steve Diazio, the founder of the School of Creativity and Innovation. We're an edtech company that curates immersive learning experiences and through labs, sprints, and trainings to help organizations solve their biggest problems. What you'll see today is an example of that work and the outcomes it produces. We invited residents to become citizen innovators, and we used AI as a rapid prototyping engine to reimagine the historic gas plant district in Tropicana Field through a community design sprint. And in the next few minutes, I'll show you how we turn these lived experiences, aspirations, wants, dreams, and needs of our community to become visual prototypes and briefs that developers and city leaders can actually build from. The historic gas plant district west of downtown was once a tightly knit majority black neighborhood filled with churches, clubs, and businesses. And in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, urban renewal started to develop, and construction of I-175 and I-275 cut through the area, bulldozing hundreds of homes and storefronts with the promise of replacing housing and opportunity that has largely gone unfulfilled. By the late 1980s, the city had assembled 80 acres for a domed stadium, first called the Florida Suncoast Dome and later Tropicana Field. Built on the premise a big league anchor would catalyze growth. Major League Baseball arrived in 1998, but redevelopment around the dome never matched the vision, and many displaced residents never returned. Economic situation didn't benefit regionally, and the pride in landing a team coexisted with the loss of a historic neighborhood. Fast forward to today, uncertainty has deepened in recent years. Polluted waterways and paved over lots stand where homes once were. Multiple redevelopment solicitation and raised negotiations advanced and then collapsed. Agreements with the mayor, old mayors, new mayors, reset timelines and investor confidence and public trust. Each new concept created excitement and skepticism in equal measures. Meanwhile, climate risk turned from theoretical to urgent fast. Recent hurricanes ripped off the roof of Tropicana Field, making it unusable and dilapidated, and forced a new question. How must urban development evolve for the climate we're living in and for the climate ahead? In the past, the process for development was mostly government-led or developer-led, leaving transparency out and agreement with community uncertain. But the path forward offers opportunities for something more grounded in alignment with deep community input and visioning. This opportunity is a people-centered approach powered by AI that treats the community knowledge as design inputs for redevelopment, that sets measurable targets and produces actionable deliverables tied to a citizen-centered strategy. Now let's show you the method we used. so the local community's contributions stay in the driver's seat instead of a backdoor agreement breaking the behavior of lack of accountability and transparency, and where we use AI serving as a tool to bridge making this complex problem more tangible and in line with citizens of the St. Petersburg's wants, desires, and needs. On November 1st, 2025, the Sierra Club and the School of Creativity and Innovation convened a one-day community design sprint to reimagine the district through a people-first clean energy lens. We brought together residents, youths, small business owners, city leaders, advocacy groups, city staff, investors, and developers to transform lived experiences into decision-ready concepts for the district's future. We grounded the day in one shared statement: how might the historic gas plant district become a model of resiliency, equity, and prosperity in a 100% clean energy future while honoring its history? We followed a 5-step workflow process to turn these lived experiences into actionable plans. First, we framed and convened. We recruited a representative cohort, set a scope, consent, and roles, and agreed on a clear challenges statement and scaffold exercises. Next, we listened to experiences and drafted briefs from these experiences. We gathered curated stories, and each story became a measurable design brief with criteria, KPIs, and a signal to what the community wants. Third, to make and reduce that complexity, we created prototypes and iterated on that feedback that we received through table discussion, presentations, and critiques, and revised them. Then we used AI to generate hyper-realistic visuals the community react to, with a log of what we heard and what we changed in this iteration process. Fourth, scoreboards and pilots. We tied each concept to KPIs and outcomes that can be tracked publicly on a public scoreboard. Fifth, we used policy, request for proposal, and framing. We converted prototypes into potential language for desired outcomes and stage implementation. And now I'll share 2 examples of how lived experiences and aspirational futures residents want to see in the historic gas plant district. They called it a quiet revolution, but you could hear it if you listened. The thrum of open shop doors, shovels in community gardens, neighbors trading recipes and repair tips like currency. In St. Pete, the heroes aren't the distant investors or glossy renderings. They're the barista who composts coffee grounds for the garden next door, the mechanic who teaches teens to fix bikes after hours, the baker who shares a walk-in freezer with a food truck so nobody loses product in a storm. What changed wasn't just attitude. We built an engine for belonging, an investment cooperative. Instead of waiting for outside money to define our future, we pooled our own. Dollars become votes, votes become places. We funded shaded plazas, micro retail bays, storm-ready markets, assets that keep the city accessible and resilient for everyone, not just a lucky few. This is collaboration, the St. Pete way. If you've been waiting for permission, here it is. Join the cooperative, bring a skill, a seedling, a small check, a big vision. St. Pete isn't being bought, it's being built together. Let's listen to our second community story. 2 months after the Category 5 storm peeled roofs like tin lids, I walked the Booker Creek Promenade, expecting wreckage. I found a heartbeat. The greenery is still a little bare, branches nicked and learning the wind again, but the soundscape surprised me. Birds arguing in the mangroves, and somewhere upstream, a saxophone practicing scales. No traffic, no sirens, music. Along the water, the storefronts are small and stubborn, hand-painted signs, owners who greet you by name, even if it's your first time. I bought a box of handmade chocolates for my niece, ribbon tied like someone meant it. The shopkeeper thanked me like I was doing more than buying sweets, like I was voting with my feet for a future that keeps this place alive. That's when it hit me. I don't know everything about the city, but I know this feeling. It's special. Not because it's perfect, but because it refuses to be ordinary after the wind leaves. It chooses song over noise. If the storm taught us anything, it's that recovery isn't passive. Plant a tree, shop the creek, tip heavily, volunteer, invest locally. Let's rebuild, shade, jobs, and joy together. From these lived experiences, we use generative AI to create assets of future desires, aspirations, and visual prototypes, showing how the community wants the historic gas plant district to evolve. Below, you'll see a few. Let's imagine the future. In closing, let's land where we began. Before spreadsheets and site plans, the historic gas plant district had a heartbeat. If we can design for a ballpark, we can design for our people, corner by corner. And here's what it means for key stakeholders through our community design sprint. For builders and financiers, we created decision-ready assets with KPIs to underwrite because capital follows clarity. For civic leaders and planners, we created trust you can measure, a public what we heard and what we changed log, and an RFP language seed for outcomes. For product, data, and engineering teams, we created clean inputs and stories to brief schema that turns qualitative insight into buildable requirements and prompt patterns, plus open data sets and a scoreboard connecting prototypes to outcomes. And for the residents and business owners, your needs and desires turned into real outcomes. This is AI as civic infrastructure and community voice as the operating system. So here's the ask. Adopt a playbook, sponsor a pilot, contribute data, teach a cohort, invest locally. Let's move from renderings to results, because if we can design a ballpark, we can design for our people, and we can start on the next corner tomorrow.